Hi, this is Joy at Pine Quilt Shop. Today we are talking about Tensister's Easy Piecing Grid. I have in front of me a fun project that I'm working on that's a cute little St. Patrick's Day project that I am making with the Tensister's grid. You can see it's a wonderful way to put scrappy fabrics together. It lets you see your placement to make sure that you're not putting two pieces right next to each other. I did scrappy backgrounds here as well, and this way I could keep track of my backgrounds, see what was where, see what was going to end up next to it, and I could look at all that and check everything out before I started to sew and had to go back and rip out seams if I got two squares of green right next to each other by accident. This way I can check it all out as I'm laying it out on the Easy Piecing grid. So it's great for scrappy projects. It's a wonderful way to put things together that you want to maybe fussy cut, or you have some directional fabrics that you want to be careful of when you're placing. It's perfect for all those things. So we're going to start by taking a look at the Easy Piecing grid. And the grid that I have in front of me is a 1-inch finished. They're sized based on the finished sizes. So it's a 1-inch finish, so use a 1.5-inch size cut square or a 1.5-inch half square triangle. And you can see that right now I can see the Tensisters logo, I can see my finish size, I can see the Easy Piecing grid logo, and that tells me that this interfacing is wrong side up. You want to flip it and make sure when you're working with the grid that you have the fusible side of the interfacing up. And when you have the fusible side up, you can read your row numbers and your column numbers. So the grids are laid out for the most part in a similar size. So this is a 1-inch finished grid. We have 9 columns across, and we have 14 rows going down this 1-inch piece of grid. The grid also comes in a 1.5-inch finished size. And when I lay that out beside, you can see the size difference. Again, I have 9 columns going across, 14 rows going down, and you can see how my grid is just progressively getting bigger because I consistently have that 9 by 14 setup of squares. Here is a 2-inch finished grid, and again, 9 across, 14 going down, and you can always tell if you have your fusible side up if you can read the numbers, and you can feel it too. There's a little bit of a bumpy feel to the fusible side. So that is the sizing on the 1, 1.5, and 2-inch finished panels. The next panel that I want to show you is a little bit different. It is the smaller 1/2-inch finished size. So there is our 1/2-inch finished size grid, and you can see it looks like about the same size piece of interfacing, but these are 1/2-inch finished squares. So you're starting out with a 1-inch cut square. I'm going to flip this over so the fusible side is up, and then we can read our row and column numbers, and you'll notice that on this interfacing I have 18 columns and I have 28 rows. So I have a panel that's basically exactly twice the size of the other panels that we looked at. So you get about the same size piece of interfacing with this one, but you can put a lot more squares on it when you're working with the smallest size interfacing. And that is the smallest size it comes in, is the 1/2-inch finished. So the cool things about the grid are the fact that you can easily fussy cut fabrics. Maybe you have some fabric that has a stripe to it and you want to make sure that you keep your stripes. Oops, I gotta grab a bigger size grid. My squares are a little bigger here. I grabbed the wrong size. Let me grab this one. I have 2-inch finished squares, and for this, the nice thing is if I have a stripe like that, I can be careful to not place them like that. Maybe you want to keep your stripes all going in the same direction. And the nice thing with the grid is you can watch as you lay it out, and you can get your directional fabrics going the way you want them to go. You can get fussy cut pieces, maybe you fussy cut a motif out. You can get it oriented correctly and get it where you want to have it in your layout. And then if you're doing scrappy, it's really easy to watch that you are not putting like pieces right next to each other. If I was doing a scrappy quilt, I probably wouldn't want these two red blocks right beside each other. And it lets you check that whole layout before you're starting to sew. Now, you can also use half square triangles to add more variety to your piecing. You simply create your half square triangle before you place it down, and then you put it down and you fuse it down just like you would a square. And when you're doing half square triangles, you want to really study those two little crosshair points and make sure that your seam is hitting that intersection, and then it is going to piece beautifully into your panel. The other awesome advantage to using the Tensisters Easy Piecing Grid is that you don't have to pin anything. No pinning at all, and it will help to line up all of your seam intersections for you. So you will end up with a beautiful piece of fabric, or maybe you'll cut it up into blocks. You can do that with it too, and you will end up with all your seam intersections that are going to just be nested together perfectly. So that is a quick overview on using Tensisters Easy Piecing Grid.